Is this the Chief's agenda?
Not many there. Yeah, I did read it.
That doesn't.
No, not at all.
Well, when you has the truck they got.
Sure, the kid wouldn't mind driving up separate. Then if you leave them on the road.
Yeah.
Of course, they know there's liabilities to be there.
Yeah.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of May 20th, 2014. Would you all please stand for the invocation and pledge allegiance?
Lord, we thank you for the privilege to live in your presence and to work with you to build a better community. Help us to do right and to deal fairly with all of our citizens. Give us the faith and courage to put our trust in you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone have your mics on? Becker?
Here.
Souter?
Here.
McBain?
Here.
Schoniger?
Here.
Callender? Here. Simpson?
Here.
Wakeman?
here.
Willard?
Here.
Blaisdell?
Here.
For approval of meeting minutes for May 6th. Are there any questions or omissions? If not, the minutes will stand as presented. Under reading of communications, the Travel and Tourism Board of Columbiana requested permission to hang a banner across Main Street in a circle on the north side of the circle for several weeks or up to a month before scheduled events in the city, i.e. Wine Fest, Firestone Festival, and the Joy of Christmas. I don't have the letter in the packet to read.
Yeah, I didn't get. I don't know.
Well, I know that Kim Sarwin was supposed to be here. She's probably running a few minutes late. But I believe she's going to us.
Okay, I'll just move on.
Okay.
Under reports of commissions and boards, we've received the planning commission meeting minutes for May 13th, 2014. Any questions or comments on those?
Just in there.
Board of Zoning Appeals meeting minutes of May 8th, 2014. Any questions or comments on those? Park Recreation Cemetery Board meeting minutes of April 28th, 2014. Any questions or comments on those? We had just skipped right past the reading of, I think, why you were here.
Oh, my goodness. That embarrassing.
Oh, it's okay. Would you like to come up?
Sure.
Mike? Yeah, go ahead.
And, okay, the tourism committee is trying to put up banners over Main Street, and we're looking at, for two-sided banners, $695 each. Those banners are going to last us, though, 4 to 5 years, and they have all the accessories with them. Put them up.
Question, Lance, I had asked, or somehow knew about this ahead of time a couple of weeks ago, and talked to Doug. Is there a problem with wind or anything fastened to the poles?
Well, I think they're going to put them up on North Main Street. So there's not going to be as big as issues with those poles, not only for
It's not the new poles?
for the strength and
Okay. You already worked on that?
yes, well, I put them in contact. I don't remember who put you in contact with, but Doug did.
Yeah, I was out there with Bob Belding and Terry Schaefer, and I don't know who they had already spoken with to get that in place.
We got only one issue with it, and that's I talked to Doug. As long as the lowest part of the banner is at least as high as the lowest wire, because there are oversized loads that go up. That is the truck route, so we have to make sure that nothing snags. That's all we have to,
Okay.
and that's really not your problem, it's the people who mount it on.
Okay.
But as long as we're there, there'll be no problem tomorrow.
I like your idea, as long as it works out with the town.
Great.
I like to see everything
We hope to see it bring a
promoted and coming in.
lot more people in for our festivals.
There'll be a lot of people see it every day.
Mhm.
It's just my opinion.
It's a good opinion.
Yeah, okay.
It seems to me that we also gave the American Legion permission to do that for street fair. Is there,
We would not overlap.
okay, it may be possible to string two banners across there for all I know, but.
We'll be good, though. We have Firestone Festival is in the first week of August, and then that festival won't be until the first weekend in September.
Okay.
Since that has happened back when Dick McBain was a child, I think I'd move to approve.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Deanne?
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schlenker?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes? I'm not old enough to remember.
Pretty good.
So that wasn't so bad. Thank you, everyone. Sorry I was late.
I have one other thing that I want to read. It's not on the agenda, but we just received it this evening. Lance and I received a letter from Congressman Bill Johnson's office that was sent to the director of ODOT in regards to the 7 and 14 turning lanes, and I just wanted to read this. It says, "Dear Director Ray, I write in support of the application submitted by the City of Columbiana for grant funding through the Ohio Department of Transportation's 2014 Small City Project Program. The City of Columbiana has requested funding in the amount of $2,078,679.20 for necessary road improvements to upgrade the existing State Route 14 and State Route 7 intersection. This project would include the addition of necessary left turning lanes along each leg of the intersection approach and a right turning lane along State Route 14 to the west of the intersection. As this intersection is located in an area of high development potential, this project will not only be crucial to the establishment of new businesses and jobs in the city, but would also significantly facilitate overall economic development. As you know, a safety study conducted in 2006 that updated in 2013 to include possible development of the northeast and southeast corners of the intersection, determined that the improvements to this intersection were necessary to ensure transportation safety and efficiency. In addition, I have enclosed a letter pursuant to the economic development interests in this area for your consideration as well. I strongly support the application of the City of Columbiana and ask that your office give this request every consideration. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Should you have any further questions, please contact Jackie Stewart. The number is listed. Sincerely, Bill Johnson, Member of Congress. Congressional letterhead sent to the Ohio Department of Transportation. But I thought that we'll let Lance discuss that a little bit in the manager's update. But we have some good things they potentially move in from a development standpoint, and I thought that it was important for everybody to know that Congressman's also involved in helping us with that. Under recognition of persons desiring to appear, first we have Crystal Samita Boggs regarding a 5K race in the City of Columbiana on Saturday, September 6, 2014.
Hello.
Hello.
I am helping David Garrett. He's graduated from the class of 1962, Columbiana High School. I hope I have the date right. He is putting together with his classmates a 5K race in Firestone Park, and they want it to take place on Saturday, September 6th. We're going to go at 8 o'clock in the morning for the race to start. 6:30 registration. They would like to bring our wounded warriors in. That would be veterans from across the country on wheelchairs for the race at 8 a.m. At 8:05, they would like to release the rest of the runners They are utilizing the Vision for Veterans course. I think most of you are familiar with that, but if anybody doesn't remember it, I can spell that out. But it's a course that my husband Josh and I have used the previous 6 years for a race. Proceeds from the race are going to go towards the restoration of things in the park, such as the brick drainage ditches. And yeah, we're just really looking for your approval to hold the event. We've already been to Park Board and got their approval. So, any questions?
We started at 8 a.m. What time do you plan on finishing up?
With the 5K, you're looking at about an hour.
Okay.
I'm not positive. With the wheelchair participants, they might take a little bit longer, but approximately an hour. We moved it to that early because the other half of the pavilion is rented and we don't want to be in their way, as well as we want everybody to be done in time to go buy burgers at the street fair at noon.
This is all in the park?
Well, yeah, it goes out on Terra Verde, a little bit out on Springfield, yeah. But most of it is in the park. Start and finish is right there by, the finish is by Pavilion number 1, the start is by Firestone and Columbiana.
I have a point of order on that. Well, I've spoken with Crystal. We've helped her with a number of her races. They're really great folks to deal with. My problem this time is that our auxiliary, being volunteers, we're beating them pretty hard during the street fair. And it's going to be difficult, maybe even impossible for me to get people to cover the street parts of this race. She's aware of that. She's looking at other avenues to try and get the security she needs to handle traffic, if any, out there. But in this instance, we're going to be spread so thin with our street fair duties, it's going to be very difficult for me to ask these guys to get up with 2 or 3 hours sleep and come out and do that at 8, and then come back for the street fair for Saturday. Just so you're aware of it. I think she has some other contingencies that sound viable, so hopefully if there's anything we can do to help her, we absolutely will.
How many men do you usually have out?
For what, the street fair or the race?
For the race.
It depends on the course. This one, how many we have last year?
I want to say we had about 10 guys out
We had
there.
about, yeah, I was gonna say like 7.
7 to 10.
We have about 20 total, and we run it really late at night on Friday night, and have to handle security at the big tent. They handle a lot of the other stuff in terms of surveillance and some of the other stuff that we do. And then on Saturday, of course, you have kids' day during the day, and we do usually an event during that, whether it be a bike rodeo or something like that. And that they're not gonna get a whole lot of sleep that whole weekend, and these are volunteers that donate their time, so I don't wanna smack them too hard.
Yeah, we're looking at possibly bringing in the Air Reserve from Youngstown, National Guard, stuff like that, since we are doing the Wounded Warrior portion of the race. So we're hoping one of those units will come down and volunteer their time as well. So. But if not, I'll take any volunteers out of here that want to come and help. It is for the park.
What do you do if you don't have anybody to help with traffic or what happens?
In our initial years, we always had our volunteers. I know the very first year, we did actually not have the police department helping us, and we managed.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. On this particular course, Terra Verde being what it is, it's not necessarily like a through street, like when we run, when they run out the Columbiana road out there past the high school. That's a little different story, but this course is relatively safe, and I think that volunteers could probably handle it. Just mainly keeping traffic out of the runners and making sure we're aware of each other out there on the street. So I don't have a problem with it. We did discuss a couple issues that may arise if they would try to, say, hire the sheriff's department or something. I believe that would probably result in some heartburn from our union, and rightfully so, I think. So we discussed those issues, but the Air Reserve folks for the Wounded Warrior part of it, I think is fine. I think it's a great idea. And I'm sure that she has volunteers that are well-versed in race etiquette and in traffic control from the numerous events she's run. So I'm not uncomfortable with that. If there's anything we can do to help, whether it's loan reflective vests or whatever, we have those things. We've done that in the past with other groups. Load those out so they're visible out there and don't get in trouble.
Move to approve with the stipulation that the security or traffic guards, whatever you want to call them, work under the advice of the police chief. You okay with that, chief?
I'm fine with that as long as Mr. Blaisdell is okay with it in terms of assuming any liability.
Second.
Any other questions? Yeah?
And there would be a certificate of insurance included in that.
Yeah.
Sauer,
Yes.
McBain,
Yes.
Schwank,
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes?
Becker.
Yes.
Thank you. And next up, Ron Detweiler from the Park Recreation and Cemetery Board Chairman regarding an agreement between Firestone and the Village of Columbiana.
Quickly tonight, just a courtesy call. Everybody should notice in their packet, there's some information from the Park Board, cover letter. Basically what this is, as you may remember, we came to council last fall and with some changes that we had made to the original agreement for Firestone Park. What you have in front of you, and it became apparent at that meeting that really council didn't have a copy of the original agreement that the city, the Park Board, council has with the Firestone Foundation. So I've enclosed tonight in that packet for your information the original agreement between Harvey, that's signed by Harvey Firestone. It's dated 1933. This is the working document that we use today. And we've tried to update it through the years, make it more pertinent to football and athletic contests and the different things like 5K races and that. But a point from Park Board, our park is utilized to the max anymore. I mean, I don't think people realize how much activity goes on in the park. The activities now are overlapping. Instead of having one event at the day, we're having a couple at a time. So the problems have changed. Also with the building and donations and walking trail and things like that, different projects are encroaching not only Park Board, but they're overlapping with Planning Council, Planning Committee, Council, and the different groups within the city. I've had the conversation over the last couple of weeks. We've got a couple of things hanging that not only involve Planning Commission, but will ultimately come to Council. I've always made the comment that I think it's very, very important that we all work together. So I think this is going to be very helpful information for you in the future, because I have a feeling that some of these decisions are going to start to be coming up, and we want you to have the proper information. So that's the only purpose tonight, is to give you that, keep it on file. You should have the updates from last fall, and if you need us on Park Board, let us know. Any questions? Thank you.
Oh, Adam, is there anyone from the public that has anything that they have for council? Tad Harold, from Columbiana County Development Department regarding an enterprise zone.
I can give you a little bit of background first. As I mentioned before, we were looking for economic development tools, maybe to not only attract, but maybe more importantly, retain local businesses. So we're always looking for different ideas. We go to meetings about various economic tools. And I've heard last council meeting that we were going to have a meeting. Met with Tad Harold from Columbiana County Development Department. Also met with Tracy Drake from Columbiana Port Authority. And we're discussing the concept of an enterprise zone. And that's what Tad's going to be talking about tonight. I've also invited Reichert Industries that are contemplating expanding their facility in Columbiana. We've always enjoyed working with them, so it's worked out really well. And this really would be a helpful tool when prospective businesses call and ask what sort of incentives that the city has to attract them. And something like this may give us an edge over other municipalities. With that, very good.
Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. Mayor, members of council, Attorney Blaisdell. It's my pleasure to speak tonight about enterprise zone agreements, like Lance mentioned. If it's okay, I think the presentation I had in mind is just maybe going to be 5 or 10 minutes, if you'll indulge me in that, and then perhaps we'll get Glenn from Record Industries up to talk some specifics about his project. But I thought I'd start off with just a general discussion about enterprise zone agreements. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps you've had this presented to you before. I know we don't have one in place here currently. But generally, the enterprise zone is, as Lance mentioned, it's an economic development tool that would incentivize companies either who are not here to perhaps locate here, or companies that are here, as in the Record Industries case, to make further investment in the area. So that's generally the goal of an enterprise zone agreement. The main mechanism that we get that is through tax abatement, so we can discuss that as we move forward. But there's 3 steps to the enterprise zone program. Okay, the first step is the actual establishment of what's called an enterprise zone district. Second step is to enter into 1 or more enterprise zone agreements with what are called entities. And under the law, an entity is what we call the business. And then once you have a designated zone, and once you have 1 or more agreements with businesses, then the third step of that process is a yearly monitoring to make sure that everybody's doing what they promised according to the enterprise zone agreement. So initially, the designation of an enterprise zone. What would happen is the local subdivision, in that case it would be the city of Columbiana, would decide that indeed you would like to designate some area an enterprise zone. That could be some small portion of the city, it could be the entire city. I would mention that once you designate one portion of the city, you can't have multiple, you can't take pieces here, pieces there. So generally, if you're going to designate, I would suggest designating the entirety of the city. Once the local subdivision decides that it wants to designate that zone, it would, and this is, I guess, why I become involved. My office, the development office out of the county, is really kind of the clearinghouse of information. We are kind of the go-between between the local governments and the state of Ohio. So what we would have to do is, if council were to desire an enterprise zone and you would pass legislation to that effect, you would share that with the county, and the county commissioners would then have to pass their own legislation. Generally, I think that county commissioners would be on board with any local initiative that is desired by the city. But we do have to meet certain criteria to have a zone designated. In Columbiana County, we have a leg up on that because we are an Appalachian county. So that's one of 2. So now we only have to get 1 more possible criterion that would make us viable for an enterprise zone agreement. And you'll see this in the little outline that I gave you. It would have to do with unemployment, abandoned commercial or industrial structures, decreased population, low to moderate income status, or aged industrial structures.
Just a quick note, sorry,
Yes.
they did not receive a copy of that, and I do apologize, but I will get it right. Sorry.
So I think if this is something that the council desires, Attorney Blaisdell and I can discuss the best way to move forward on it and what designation we would choose to go after. There are also, when you get the material from Lance, there's a second side to it that explains that there are both distressed zones and non-distressed zones. If we can't qualify for a distressed zone in the city, we could go and certainly become a non-distressed zone. I speak about distressed zones because every other one we have in the county is designated as a distressed zone. But that's the designation of the zone. So once city council approves and county approves, and we believe that we have a good designation on 2 accounts, then we would forward it to the state for their approval. That would take upwards or maximum of 60 days for the state to review and certify the city or its area as an enterprise zone area, okay? Once an area is designated an enterprise zone, then you can move into the second phase, and this is really where everything really kind of acts. That is the negotiation and execution of an enterprise zone agreement. So what would happen is an enterprise, any non-retail business could approach the city and say, we would like to discuss entering into an agreement with you for certain promises of hiring, investment in fixed assets, and income tax creation. We will, make further investment in the city. This is truly is an agreement that is to be brokered, hammered out locally between the city and the entity. Just because you are designated an enterprise zone does not mean you have to enter into any agreement with any entity under any certain terms. But generally what that enterprise zone agreement would say, ABC company agrees to expand its operations in the city of Columbiana through an investment in facilities of, X million dollars. We promise over the next 2 or 3 years to employ 50 new people, and we expect that the payroll will increase by $2 million. That's their side of it. The city side of it would be abatement of, primarily of interest of real property tax on the new structure, not on what currently exists, but on the new fixed asset that comes into play. An abatement on that real property anywhere from 0 to 75%, and could go all the way to 100% if you chose, and with the school board's approval. And that abatement could go from anywhere from 0 to 10 years, and could exceed 10 years and go to 15 years, also with school board approval. So that is generally the agreement in a nutshell. Again, you folks will be the primary negotiator, or hopefully your attorney, I think is generally the way it gets done. The school board obviously is an important player in this, because the overwhelming majority of the property taxes go to the school district. In all cases, the school district is entitled to notice, and they are entitled to a certain level of participation in the process, which we will discuss in detail later. Only once you hit that 75% and above, or 10 years and above, are they entitled to be required to approve. But in all events, even if you were given 1% for 1 year, they would be entitled to notice and be part of the process. And that also includes not only the Columbiana Village School or Exempted School District, but also the Columbiana County Career and Technical Center. So that's the agreement portion of it. Then finally, there is yearly monitoring each year to make sure that the company, the entity, is making good on its promise. They have to provide my office with certain information, about 5 pages of a form that details what they've been doing in the community, what investment they've made, how much they've added to the payroll, and numbers of people and money that they've added to the payroll. And that goes before the County Tax Incentive Review Council, and you folks would have a say in that, and we would advise the state whether or not we believe the agreement should continue in full force, and that happens yearly. And one other thing I did forget about on the agreement side, with regard to the school boards, since they are obviously, the biggest beneficiary of the property tax, there is also the possibility of entering into what's called a compensation agreement between the entity and the school district directly, so that the school district doesn't lose as much as they might have otherwise in property tax. We have had an excellent example of the process, if anybody would be interested, in Letonia. In 2000, they entered into an enterprise zone agreement with what was then General Extrusions Aluminum. And at the time, I think everybody was fairly hesitant, council and the school board especially. By the time I was an assistant prosecutor, they were getting ready to, they had gotten to the point where they wanted to extend that agreement. And so we assisted with that through the prosecutor's office. And so I saw that people went from being pretty hesitant about it to being quite happy with it. And this past February, everybody was so happy with it that it's no longer General Extrusions, it's now Pennex Aluminum. But they are making another $33 million investment out there, and people couldn't get to the table quickly enough to sign the document. So I'm not saying that's going to be the result in every enterprise zone agreement, but there can be, very good results with these. So that's it in a nutshell. I know I threw a lot at you. But do we have any questions at this point?
What's the biggest downfall or most negative thing of it?
Well, okay. I think the biggest problem could occur if you don't have a history with a company that is coming in from nowhere and is asking for some incentive to come in. Then you probably want to be worried about whether they're really going to deliver the goods. So that's one fallback, or one possible drawback. Obviously, there may be there's a political issue here, in that people are going to hear abatement and say, we're giving away tax dollars. But if you ask me, and I'm not trying to advocate one way or the other, I'm just here to say this is a program that's available in the state. If you want to do it, I'll help you, along with your attorney. But some people are going to say, you're giving away money. But I think that's kind of like counting your chickens before they're hatched, because you are not giving an abatement on any property that is currently in the city. All you're doing is saying, if you build additionally in the city, we'll abate some portion of that for some period of years. So I think those are the two big things I would think of. Not knowing the company that you're dealing with would be a frightening thing, and knowing that there's going to be some detractors out there because of the structure of it.
What generally do you see as the recourse if they don't make good on their promise?
I will admit that, I've only been in my position with the county for less than a year. I've been through one tax incentive review, through the one in Letonia, the active one in Letonia. I did notice that in Mahoning County, there were 3 enterprise zone agreements in the last 2 months that Mahoning County had forwarded to the state of Ohio. I think 2 of which they proposed should be ended. And I think one, they were kind of like, we want to watch this one very carefully. I have not seen from the state of Ohio whether that was actually terminated or not. So I can't tell you. All I can tell you is what I've seen in Mahoning County there within the last couple of months. But there's a very real monitoring mechanism here. And they have to pay a yearly fee to get that done, and we take it seriously. So they know we're watching. I can't guarantee the amount of teeth there, but the mechanism is in place.
Well, along those lines, in the event that an agreement was reached and the community wanted to terminate the agreement, can the state override that intention, or can the city do it on its own?
I honestly don't know. I mean, it's a contract, it's of a contract nature, but obviously at the outset of this, what happens is there's a thing called a Form DTE 23 from the Department of Tax Equalization. And once we get the agreement in place, the entity must go through our auditor's office and they fill out that form. And I think what happens is that form gives them the abatement for X number of years. And so absent some affirmative action, that abatement continues. But we could certainly look at that. I hate to answer it, but I don't know the answer. you and I would probably say this is an agreement that's a contract in nature, and so it should be able to be terminated.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, but what is done with the state, I'm not exactly sure how that gets undone, other than through the Tax Incentive Review Council. Mhm.
Now, we fall into two counties.
I'm sorry?
We fall into two counties, the city falls into two counties.
Yeah,
So then we do have to also deal, if we're in the northern part, we deal with Mahoney County.
well, for most issues of economic development, we deal with Columbiana County. And this is a unique proposition because only Washington and Columbiana are that way. So when we go to designate, we will have to ask the state whether we can designate, if you chose to do so, whether they would want, I think they would probably want us to designate into Mahoney County and we would administer that. But obviously, whatever the state says would go.
But we could also choose not to make Mahoney.
That's right.
Portion, because that's primarily residential and a little bit of commercial. There's not really any industrial zones in Mahoney County, is there, Ken? That's not, that's commercial.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying, that's the only.
Yeah, but he said that it can't be a retailer, it has to be essentially an industrial type of.
It has to be non-retail. Now, that is open to some interpretation. I honestly haven't looked at the case law as to whether that pertains, you know. There is a definition in the statute here, and this is governed by chapter 5709, of what a retail enterprise means, but it doesn't necessarily mean what non-retail is. So, you know, for instance, is like things that might fall into that soft.
Like a medical center or something like that might fall in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, your point is well taken. You get to set the boundaries of the enterprise zone. So if you chose to terminate it at the Columbiana County limit, if you wanted just to do it for expediency's sake, you could certainly do that. We would just have to qualify whatever area it is that you're going to designate. And I looked at census figures today. I think there's only one block group in the entire city that you could qualify as LMI to get to your second designation. And I didn't have time to map which area that was, but you know, there would be a very small portion. I don't think it would be worth your while, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So.
I might say back in the days of building an industrial project, this was thrown around a little bit, and I was 100% against it. But today our climate has changed. I think it's a good idea.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Like I say, I'm not here to advocate for or against. I think it's a good tool in the right positions. And I think the second part of our presentation, I think, is going to be Dwayne from Reichert Industries. Mary, you know, one of the problems I would be concerned about is a company that you don't have a history with. That's not the case with Reichert Industries. So, yeah, it's not going to work in every case, and I wouldn't want to try to force it on anybody who didn't want it, but I think in this case it might make some sense.
Plus having it, you wouldn't have, you said you don't have to take advantage of it, but you have it if you have it all.
That's right. You can designate the zone. As a matter of fact, I was at a township last week who, frankly, they have two businesses of interest, of any real substance in the township, but they're interested in this. There's one entity that might be interested in taking advantage of it now, but even if they don't, the township might like to have the designation because, you know, the designation could take 2 to 3 months to acquire. So if you have the designation in place and somebody comes and says, we would like to set up shop here, or we would like to enlarge our footprint here, then you can go right to the agreement. And again, even though you have a designation in place, that doesn't mean you ever have to get into an agreement. Frankly, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 6 enterprise zones in the county currently, and one of them is active. The other 5 don't have current agreements running. I don't know what the situation was when those were enacted, but for whatever reason, they are not currently involved in an agreement. So there's no need, You don't have to worry about setting up designating a zone and then having every unwanted industry come in and say it's our right to have an agreement. That's yours to allow or not allow. So. And again, I can't underestimate, if you are interested in this, Attorney Blaisdell will be very important in that, and I think that the cooperation with the school board will be very important as well, because we want them involved as quickly as possible. That I think is the other possible pitfall, that if you try to do this and not everybody's on board from the giving side of it, it could, be unpleasant.
That's most school boards.
Yes, now I will say that in the Latonia example, the Career Center was helpful in making that an expedited process, let's say. Generally, what we would ask is that, Columbiana's going to make a tough decision, and hopefully the Career Center would kind of piggyback on that. That's what happened with Latonia. And just to give you an idea of the process, if you're under 75% or 10 years, I mentioned the school board gets notice, but their notice is a much shorter time frame, and what they can do is say, we see you're interested in this, and we want you to sit down at the table and talk to us about it before you do anything. If it's 10 years, if it's longer than 10 years or greater than 75%, you have to give them 45 days of notice, and they have to affirmatively approve the agreement. So, and this is getting into the minutia that Dan and I would have to talk through if and when this happens. But quite honestly, this is a county enterprise zone agreement. We would never, at the county level, dictate anything, and the revised code doesn't allow us to. But we would coordinate our approvals with your council and with the county commissioners, so that we meet all those time frames and do it appropriately.
Just one clarification. Did I understand you correctly to say that if we designated a limited area of the community as an enterprise zone, we couldn't do it anywhere else?
Yes, I believe the statute says that if a municipal corporation or the county commissioners designates one area in a municipality or in a township, they can only do the one. So you can't go through and give little pinpoints.
That makes that issue with regard to the Mahoning County line pretty important.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do some checking on that.
We can
See whether or not that.
I wanted to kind of have a conversation tonight and see if there was any interest, and then we can work through all the issues, because I'm not going to paint myself as an expert. I've been through a little bit, and if we do it, it'll have to go through my office. So I wanted to open up the lines of communication. But as you can see, all of our designations are for either entire townships or entire municipalities, and probably for that purpose, because they don't want to. All of Center Township. That's
all of Center Township, yes. And Lisbon is excluded?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's
yes,
just
it is.
a township?
Yes, right. Center Township, St. Clair Township, Village of Wellsville, Village of Latonia, and Village of East Palestine.
And parts of East Liverpool are excluded from this township?
I'm sorry, in the city of East Liverpool, but that's Liverpool Township. That's kind of weirdly notched.
Thanks. Yeah.
Maybe I went over 10 minutes, I'm sorry. Worth it. Well, if there's nothing else for me, then I think that we would like to hear a little presentation of our citizens. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
First, I'd like to thank you for your time, and thank you for even considering this, that Columbiana is an enterprise zone. A lot of you guys know our company. They don't really know what we do, so what I'd like to do is just go through a brief history, where we came from, what we're doing, where we're going, our vision, and that kind of stuff. I'll try to be quick, hopefully. Brief history: my father actually started right in the industries. He used to work down in Youngstown. He was the chief engineer of Polycom. He came here at that building for an auction, and ended up buying the building. So 1985, 1986, we bought that building. Since then, we've expanded. We built the Fairfield plant in 90, 91, and then we have another facility in Niles. We have a 50,000 square foot facility in Niles, Ohio. Right now, we have three main products. Most of you guys see the big bottles down next to our shop. You know, Flynn could say he has the biggest dealership in Ohio. We're the biggest supplier of bottle cars in North America. So people don't think that, but actually since 1983, nobody else has built a bottle car in North America besides us. Our other equipment we do is blast furnace equipment and labels. This is a topic I like to talk about a little bit. Our growth. Since 2004, we had about a 300% growth. My dad pretty much has been out of it since 2004. Not to discredit him by any means, but in 2002, 2003, the market was bad. He's been retired. He gave us a great opportunity, myself and my brother Keith, and we've basically ran with it. We started in 2003, end of 2003, beginning of 2004 with 31 employees. We're up to 62. To be quite honest with you, we have enough work currently. We're at about a 14-month backlog. We have enough work for about 85 employees. So we're in a position where we have no choice but to grow. In fact, our biggest competition now is China, and not because their price is any better, because the deliveries are better. We don't have the facilities to fulfill the need right now. So we're going to build. I mean, there's no question we have to expand. So we have a couple of options to expand, and that's, obviously our home base is in Columbiana, and Columbiana has been great to work with. I mean, we have another facility in the house, and there's a lot of reasons I could tell you why we want to go in Columbiana. So this tax abatement would help our decision a little bit better, and it would help us to expand and help us with a little better tax benefit. Again, I told you we did have other facilities in Niles. Currently, just so you know, we have 62 employees. Again, we do have to work for 85 if we increase our capacity. Hopefully the building, we're looking at about 1,800 square foot building and add probably about 20 jobs. Anybody have any questions as far as the building, what we want to do?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna build? Where are you gonna build it? What are you gonna do?
Well, to be honest with you, we would like to build in Columbiana. There's different reasons. From a cost standpoint, currently, it's actually cheaper to build in our house facility, building strictly. The reason being is because we have ground fill right now. We don't have to move sewers. The ground's already ready. We can move. The other option is possibly go down south. Actually, people don't realize this. This used to be have the most blast furnaces in the United States. Now it has 0. Most is still currently being built is in the south, or made. So those are our three options, and we weighed all three options financially. Again, my brother lives in Canfield. I'm a current resident in Austintown. Been looking for a house for about the last 3 years. Oh, I said hi, by the way. So we would like to build in Columbiana. I could tell you the benefits to all three of them.
What's the benefits of Columbiana, not the others?
Well, I'll be honest. The community's been great to work with. I mean, they really have. I mean, Lance, I'll use a perfect example. Lance called me the other day. They were tearing up the street on Fairfield. He called me and said, hey, we're going to tear up the street. How's it going to affect you? We would not get that kind of result in Iowa. We wouldn't. So, and anytime we call the sheriff or whatever and say we're moving something, or, they just help out. It's nice to have this kind of atmosphere. It really is. Good community. So from that standpoint, we would like to stay. We would like to keep going.
That would be behind your present building?
Actually, I don't have a layout, but right now you have, down over on Fairfield, you have the big building, and then you have a gantry crane. It would be right next to the gantry crane.
Okay.
So it would be twin buildings.
This is the one that you presented to Planning Commission.
Correct. We asked for
a year or two ago.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we actually, since then, what's really helped this project, to be honest with you, we've needed this for 3 years, to be honest. We bought the property, we tore down the houses, as you could see. They still have some grading and stuff to do to clean up the land. And what really held up this project was cranes. We've been looking for cranes for 3 years. We finally purchased 2 cranes recently, and now we need to build. So the cranes was the big hurdle. We kept on going to the contractors and saying designs the building. They kept on coming back to us and saying, tell us what cranes to build the building to. Now we have the cranes. So we're far enough along that if we make a decision to go here or go to Niles, we could do so very quickly, and we need to.
That's beautiful.
How much of that land do you own, Mike?
We own all of it now to the creek.
How deep is it? Like from the street?
Well, we've actually already worked with some contractors and they have a layout. And the way if we do build there, what I told them to do is we want to maximize the building. Obviously, there's setbacks that we have to obtain. And I don't have any of the contractors here. We haven't even picked them yet. And by the way, the 3 contractors we are talking to our local contractor. But we want to maximize the length of the building based off of what setbacks from the creek and the road have to do. And be able to get a truck in that.
In your timeframe, you want to do something pretty immediate.
Very immediate.
How would that come into play from what you had just discussed?
Well, can I speak from here?
Yeah, sure.
We would, it would take us a couple months for the designation, I'm thinking. And oftentimes the agreement will take 2 or 3 months to hammer out, especially if it's the first time through. I would want to guess 3 months because not only do you have to get the agreement, the Ohio Revised Code helps us in a way in that it gives us the bare minimums of that agreement. But obviously, the parties will want to delineate other terms of that agreement, as well as the required notice to the school board and the required legislation. I would say at least 2 months for the designation, at least 3 months for the agreement process.
Can the designation and the agreement process go in parallel?
Well, I would say that if we're going to submit the designation, there's no reason we shouldn't start working on that agreement. Now, we can't officially, we can't adopt the agreement, nor could we do the notices out to the school boards and things like that, but we can do all the things behind the scenes, so that as soon as the designation is given, then we can move on those time requirements. So, yeah, that's a good point. We could probably cut that a little bit, but we'd still be looking just in the basic notice, unless we get really good cooperation with the school district, at least a couple months there.
Ted, are there public hearings involved? When you give the notices, is it required that the council hold a public hearing?
Well, the council has to pass legislation, and the school board, if it has to affirmatively approve, it would have to do so through a resolution.
At their regular meetings, but
Yes.
there's no
No special public hearing.
And they would have to do that unless it was over 75%.
Correct. Yes. Or over 10 years.
I think that's something that we should investigate very seriously.
I think tonight, to expedite this, we ought to at least full council and get a feeling of whether we want Lance and Tad to start working on this. Of course, we'll have to have a resolution or an ordinance or something, but at least we would know for Lance to get it, get things started. So I'll poll first. I would be in favor of Lance going ahead and looking at it or starting the process.
Let's put that for motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we have Lance and Tad work together to bring us more information, a resolution, or whatever information they can on starting an enterprise zone.
Second.
Now, I do want one clarification before we go. Suppose Mark Brothers wants to build something onto his building. He can use this too?
Yes.
If it's a new project?
If you designate, the designated area is going to be what's important here. Anything that is occurring in that designated area that is non-retail, you could,
So
now you
Mark
wouldn't be
can
able to
use it,
use,
anybody else?
you wouldn't use the same agreement you would hammer out a new agreement with that new
Okay.
entity.
Okay, my motion stands then.
It's not committing to it, it's simply
Yeah.
to initiate the conversation.
Just wanted to clear that up in my mind that everybody else could use it too.
The only thing I'd like to know is that that Mahoney County line, okay, because that, you know, that's where are we going, you know, do we, don't we, don't, you know, and that, I'd like to know that. Am I in favor of it? Yes, I am, but I'd like to have more clarification there, because I know, yes, as you had said earlier, you know, we can stop here at a certain point, but I think we need to look at all of our advantages, you know, and disadvantages.
I personally would like to see Mahoney County in it also.
Let's, if you can get back to it,
Yeah,
that's gonna need some.
That's a good point, and we'll definitely look at that, because that is such a novel thing that we'll have to see what they've done in other counties, and certainly what the state recommends. And we still have, in the city of Columbiana, the issue of finding our second criteria to get you qualified. So what I'm hearing Councilmember Schwanniger say is that he wants Lance to move forward with Attorney Blaisdell and I to try to see about the boundary issue and about the qualification issue.
That's it.
I'm wondering if we could Fairfield Township online, so we go ahead and cover the old national refractors as well.
It's a good point.
There's a lot of industrial property out there.
If
I could see somebody working in.
If I could throw something in, we've been exploring that a little bit through the Business Development Committee and stuff, and that has been done in other states, and in other areas of the state, where they've combined, I believe.
You're probably talking about a joint economic district, a JED?
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
That would be for sharing of services into the township. If you, and I'm not prepared to talk about this really, but generally, if there's a township area that needs the services that generally a city would provide, and it's kind of a friendlier alternative to annexation, the city would agree to provide those city services in return for some income tax payment there. If that's something you want to look at, again, one of the initiatives that the commissioners asked me to do when they hired me last year to do this is to reach out to local governments that want kind of to work through these things. So if you want to learn more about that along with me, let me know and we'll look at those possibilities. So, but again, the Fairfield Township also does not have an enterprise zone, so if they were interested, that's something we could also look at. So.
Can I add to my motion, Lance, to do it quickly so Mr. Wicker has an answer?
And I appreciate that. I'm gonna start that tomorrow. I mean, there's groundwork we can do too. I mean, I'm in the process of picking a contractor, number one. Number two, once we pick a contractor, they're still gonna have to design the building. So our goal is to actually have a building by the end of the year, but they have 2-3 months worth of work before they even break ground.
When I say I appreciate you coming and the good words of Columbiana.
I appreciate it. Fun working.
It's fun having you here. I know a number of people work for you and they're very happy.
Good. That's good to hear.
Any other questions?
I did not hear who made the second.
Good. Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
McBain?
Yes.
Schwanniger?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
Moving on to the manager's report, update from Mike.
I'd really first like to thank the lieutenant stepped out, but it's been really nice working with him. You know, and Riker Industries, we had a meeting, and a nice collaborative effort to look into things like this. Exciting stuff. To get back to the first thing I wanted to talk about was the letter from Mr. Johnson. As you may recall, with the help of Dallas Dawson and Associates and Joseph Henderson, we applied for 2 grants this year for the 714 project that was mentioned in the letter. We applied for safety grants and small city funds through ODOT. And actually, what's kind of funny was the safety grant was to be presented last Tuesday at 2:30 in New Philadelphia. And I had set up a meeting, was part of a meeting here that was scheduled in March for last Tuesday at 1:30 with ODOT officials, and also Congressman Bill Johnson was here. And the meeting was great. We met, and we also had Tom Akel here. He basically gave the same concept that he gave council last year, and did a great job. And we sat and talked, and although we didn't actually hear back from ODOT yet, hopefully we hear back in about a month and a half if we are awarded those grants. But if we do get those grants, there's still going to be a portion the city's going to be responsible for. But during that meeting, we came up with a bunch of different ideas to kind of close that gap, so it's not going to be such a burden on us. If you just kind of piggyback a bunch of grants together, it's good to close that gap a little bit. But I'd really like to thank Congressman Johnson for coming and writing that letter, and we received it today. And that goes a long way and really help or thank the ODOT officials that were here. So, and also Dallas Dawson for filling in for me over there in New Philadelphia. So, it's very nice. Let's see, we ground the streets last week, and we started to pave. We're not going to be paving tomorrow due to the rain, predicting some rain, and we didn't want to get any trucks sitting out there with hot mix in it pulling down. So we're going to lay off tomorrow, but we'll be right back at it and get that first round of paving done. I've had a couple other meetings to promote and attract businesses in our town, and those are going pretty well. I'm working with Tad right now, and hopefully we find out more information to maybe bring in some more businesses in here. We've been working on utility shutoffs over the past couple of weeks. Last year's effort, we just kind of stopped where we started where we stopped last year at the past due bills, and we're working hard on that over the next month. I've been in contact with Courtney and Associates. If you recall, they gave us the rate structure and the rate study, and really I just need some direction from council if you want me to do anything with that, adopting that rate structure that they proposed. Once you give me direction, I can draw up legislation to do so. If that's what you want to do. And that they have a kind of a boilerplate, but we'll still have to go over with Dan to make sure it fits our legislation. If
I make a motion to draw that up, and we can still tweak it and have 2 votes on it after that point.
Second.
Any questions on that?
Could you clarify a little bit, draw up, add a little bit more to that? What are you
Draw up
motioning?
the legislation copying the rate study of Courtney and Associates. For the electric part.
Whenever you're ready.
Schoniger?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Okay, for the park and cemetery, we started filling the pool today. They're doing some last minute things before opening the pool, and Saturday is free pool day, so everybody can come and enjoy the pool on Saturday. They were blacktopping today in front of the pool. You know, we have people from all different crews, you know, from wastewater, water department, they're all helping paving right now, so I want to thank them for doing that. The gates that were presented for at the budget to get painted, those are being painted up at the for the park cemetery. And the aerator that I believe it was Joy of Christmas had kind of donated with some funds. I think it was a year or two ago, we went ahead and ordered that. We're gonna try to get that installed here soon. If you notice the traffic and the road maintenance on West Park Avenue, we were reconductoring a line. I don't know what that means, but Doug says that's what they're doing. So they're putting a line in down there. You know, it's nice to see, you know, maintaining our system. And they're still working on that Camelot well. The wastewater crew would like to thank the water distribution crew. We had a leak on a force main and they fixed it yesterday. The Efficiency Smart program that we have, that we passed in, I guess that was late December, early January. They are really reaching out to the businesses, and I believe that a lot of them are pretty excited, or a few of them are anyways, and they're doing a good job. We should be able to get a report later this summer how many more have added projects. They just contacted Mike this week. We are going to have a CFL recycle box here, the little curly Q light bulbs. You can bring them in here. There'll be a box right in here in our lobby. We can take them.
They will also take the regular incandescent light bulbs also.
Okay.
Very good.
Let's see. I think that's it.
Question, Lance, I saw Mark shaking his head about the, they working with you, Mark? The Energy Smart?
Mike Jackson,
Yes.
who is the local rep for Efficiency Smart, who's, I haven't designated the project yet, but he's on me like, make a turn. White on rice or pink on you know what or something.
Yeah.
You think it may work out?
Yeah, no, it definitely will. We just gotta pick what we're gonna do and designate the money. And frankly, the technology has now almost caught up to, you know, 2-3 years ago we were looking at it and do we go LED, do we go fluorescent? The LED was pretty slick but really expensive. Well, now it's sort of caught up, and in fact, we've just located, we have a lot of the 400 watt metal halide fixtures. So what we have to do is take the fixtures out. I mean, that's quite a bit of labor. I've now found, a company that now makes a screw-in bulb replacement for the metal halide. It's slicker than, you just unscrew the 400 watt metal halide, you screw in an LED, and you're done. You don't have to rewire, you don't have to.
And it don't take 400 watts?
Exactly right. It takes about, 72 or something like that as compared to the 400.
It's amazing.
So we're kind of weighing our options as to which way we want to go, and that's what sort of slowed us down a little bit. But he is very, and I'm appreciative that you got other things, the business owner, you got other stuff to do. And every time he's in the area, he calls and says, hey, I'm going to be in the area, can I stop by and get you signed up? I mean, he's persistent.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Doug's working with we should hopefully have within the next month a proposal release the concept of the replacement of the streetlights in town. There's meetings upon meetings, but they're gonna show us the payback, and it should be pretty good.
Anything else? All right, any comments on the bill list from May 20th? If not, there's no old business. Moving to new business. Due to the length of the ordinance, can I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Deanne?
Callender?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes?
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schwank?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 14-0-2769, first reading. An ordinance setting a salary, establishing a position, and other conditions of employment for the street superintendent for the city of Columbiana.
So moved.
Second.
Any question? Comment? Are you ready?
Simpson?
Yeah.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schwank?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Council comments?
I have one real quick thing I forgot, Brian. Chief and I got, was it 3:15 today? About the South Main Street railroad crossing. They're gonna close it tomorrow, 45 minutes to a couple hours. Haven't given us a time, it's in the afternoon. So I don't know, how much that affects you down there, but hopefully they're in and out on this one. The last one was, a lot longer, but that's
I'd just like to say, Lance, it sounds like you've been busy as everything with these grants, everything you've been working on. And, I guess there's so much goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I had a comment from a gentleman that travels the railroad street quite a bit, and he thanked the city for removing that bump there at Columbiana Boiler.
As one day, I spoke for a few minutes yesterday at that economic development summit that they had down in Lisbon. And Lance was there, and got to acknowledge him in front of everybody. But also, it did give Columbiana some good press. We were in the Business Journal this morning talking about the new development of Firestone Farms, and they do like a daily video, and they had done a quick interview with a couple of us that were there, and our snip was on there, so we got to talk a little bit about the new development going on. So it was a good cheerleading session for Columbiana.
Did you get to hear that seat-based presentation from,
I was there for the first 2 hours, and then I had to go to my real job.
yeah. Did you hear that seat-based thing, Dick? Were you there? No, I had to go to my job that wasn't a real job. It's very interesting. That's about,
It was kind of awkward. I didn't realize we were going to be in that panel type format. I thought I was going to speak for a few minutes. My phone was on silent, and we're sitting up in front of it with 3 other mayors that were there, and my phone was ringing nonstop. And I couldn't stop to take a call. I had no idea what was going on. So I couldn't stay. But I think Lance was there for long day.
Just to bring up a small thing on these electrical issues that we're going to have legislation drawn up on, I'd like to make sure that we take a long, hard look at how we're going to adjust this and make sure that we cross the T's and dot the I's to take care of our constituents here in the town. So I think that's the way you're going to draw that up. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Give us discussion time.
Yeah, it's proposed.
Okay.
I did have a thought on that. We always have 2 readings. At the next meeting, it'll be presented. Is protocol that we could put it to skip a meeting so everybody can think about it and go on for the second reading, or is that not feasible.
The only restriction on passage of legislation is that we're separated by 10 days.
Okay, so,
You could easily skip them.
so if there's, Dan, if there's anything we want to work on or change, we could have 3 or 4 weeks in between to the second reading.
And always table it and then bring it back off the
Yeah.
table when we're ready to.
Or table it, either way.
Like, you know, it's just.
Because I'm sure there's going to be
It's a concern for me.
some tweaks.
Okay.
But we don't have a meeting the first Tuesday in July, so.
We'll probably have one.
I was going on vacation. Is there any update?
Mary can sit in for you. Give her your proxy.
I've had a couple of conversations with the USDA this week and Arcadis, and hopefully we know a little bit more next week.
We should go fire under their feet.
We're trying. Well, I mean, actually, we're getting there.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Who's adjourned?
Take care.